Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy Network. I am so glad you're here. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Wednesday. Make sure you're hydrated. Okay. Y'all know I could fan out sometimes, right? This is one of those times. So let me take the time to, because most of you know I do thrifty shopping. I believe in thrifting, and y'all know what's my favorite store. So I want to take this minute really to basically introduce a wonderful guy that I had the pleasure of meeting, Mr. Keith T. Parker. He's the CEO. I want y'all to come a little closer. I said he's the CEO and president of Goodwill of North Georgia. Welcome, Mr. Parker. How are you?
I am fantastic. Just glad to be with you, Jacqueline.
Listen, no. This is like Christmas for me right now, okay? I don't want anyone telling me about Santa Claus doesn't exist because you're like my Santa Claus, okay? That's how I view you. So I want to talk, let's talk about what I'm excited and what we've been getting a lot of responses on, questions. How did you become the CEO of Goodwill? Tell us, who is Mr. Keith T. Parker?
All right. Well, I like to start with family. I grew up in Petersburg, Virginia, the hometown of Moses Malone, Blair Underwood, Trey Songz, and a whole host of other entertainers, athletes, and so forth. But a very stressed place in terms of very low economic opportunity, very low social mobility, and so forth. In fact, we had the high school I graduated from was regarded as the worst high school in the state of Virginia. I mean, literally, but has still produced a fair share of doctors and lawyers and very successful people because there was always a village to help, with folks. So I worked my way through school and the whole works, picked up a few degrees along the way, and really entered into a career in public transportation. So I ran transit systems all around the country: Charlotte, Richmond, San Antonio, on the Portland, Oregon area, and so forth, including here in Atlanta. I ran MARTA for 5 years before becoming the CEO of Goodwill. And what led me to Goodwill was I have for years now, for more than a decade, I've been a volunteer with Goodwill on various boards and that sort of thing, including while I was in San Antonio. And when the 27-year CEO who preceded me decided to retire, and he announced that he was leaving more suddenly than what we had anticipated. We had started up a search for his replacement. The people on the search committee asked me to put my name in the hat and consider becoming the CEO of Goodwill. Now, this shocked everybody around me because, I had built up a pretty good reputation in public transit, had won pretty much every award, every accolade that one could win in that field. But I just knew I wanted to try something else. And the reason why Goodwill made sense for me was when I think about the most difficult problem that Metro Atlanta faces, to me, it is the fact that this is the worst city in the country in which to be born poor in terms of being able to get out of poverty and onto the middle class and beyond. The worst place that if you're born in a number of different zip codes, you literally have a 96% chance of being born in poverty, living your entire life in poverty, and dying in poverty 15 years before other people die, because the mortality rate is so much worse in many of the African American and other lower wealth neighborhoods. So I knew Goodwill could make a difference because while people all know about the thrift stores and so forth, many don't know about our workforce development work, where our mission is to put people to work. And over my 5 years now, it's close to 5 years, we have now helped almost 100,000 people find jobs here in North Georgia. And more of those folks are moving into working class, living wage, and beyond types of occupations where they can take care of themselves, their families, their communities. So that's what Goodwill rings for me. It is the best job in the world. It's one of those jobs I would do if I got to keep this quiet. If they came to me tomorrow and said, Keith, we're having a tough budgetary time and we really can't pay you for the next 2 or 3 years, I'd still do it.
Well, I
because
screenshot. I'm screen shooting this, and I'm sending this. This is going to be my blackmail. Okay. This is what. First of all, let me give you your props. Let me give you. You know, I believe in giving people their flowers. You know, now when you're talking to them, then later on, because I've seen the transition with Goodwill, and you're doing an amazing job. And I live in the Cobb County area, so I've seen the transition. But I'm that person that I'll go to West End Goodwill. You know, before my husband busts in here, I think my husband has a bone to pick with you really badly because you've turned me into a hoarder. Okay. He's like, is he going to be on the show tonight? I said, no, he's going to be on the show tomorrow. That's what I told him. He's like, because I got to speak to him about this. But I've seen the transition, and you've done an amazing job, you know, and I know you don't take it for granted. So one of the questions I need to ask is, what gave you the confidence? Because you've done amazing things with transportation, but what gave you the confidence? Because now you're walking into another platform, into another arena. And there's so many people that don't have that confidence.
Right,
so can you speak to that?
Well, you know, I have always lived by this mantra of leadership takes practice. And I got my first foray into leadership as an 11th grader in Petersburg High School, that same high school I mentioned that was so depressed and had a tough time at it. But I became, my first time as a true leader was becoming the president of Gentlemen Athletes and Scholars, known as the Gas Guys in Petersburg. And that's when I became president of something for the first time. But between that time, all the way to today, I have always been president or general manager, executive director of something, straight through, you know, from that time period to now, where I'm not being paid. So I have volunteered for something, or somebody volunteered me for something that to me made a difference, was making an impact. And then I joined that organization, eventually moved myself up, and then took the organization to a different level. So I've got volunteer things that run the gamut of, you know, like I was once the executive director for Marching Dimes. I've run 4-H clubs. I mean, you name it, I've done it. All with the large organizations like Virginia Commonwealth University. I was the chairman of the board of visitors and the rector for a couple of years there. So I've always sort of taken the road less traveled and jumped to these leadership opportunities. Again, going all the way back throughout my career. So when I decided about 5 years ago that I wanted to try something different, because I had done pretty much all the things I wanted to accomplish in the transit field, started looking around about what it would be. And I got 3 great offers, but 2 of those, one was in New York, one was in Washington, D.C., required me to move. And I decided I wanted to stay in Atlanta for a variety of reasons, primarily family. And it's turned out to be great. But I knew, you know, there's this great quote I follow a lot, that one has to have the courage to try, but the humility to prepare. So I felt like I had the courage. You know, I knew I could, if I got in there, I knew if I built the right team and carried myself the right way, that we could be successful. But also knew it was going to take a lot of hard work, that it was going to take a lot of study and a lot of meticulous listening and that sort of thing. And so when you get those elements and combine them together, then it's a matter of execution. And we put together a very bold and aggressive plan early on, had some really difficult periods in there, but then we have now reaped some wonderful benefits. So we've just enjoyed, we're about to close out our fiscal year. We've had our most profitable fiscal year ever, our highest revenue ever. We have raised wages for our employees at a higher level than ever before. We've done a whole host of things. So it's been a spectacular year. And I'd say the primary benefit goes to, or credit goes to the great team who we've assembled.
Where did that drive come from?
I would say early on, my mom and dad really, really pushed me. And I have tremendous parents. I mean, people who have work ethic that's unbelievable. My father passed away 12 years ago from a heart attack. My mother is a vibrant 75-year-old in Petersburg, Virginia, still getting around quite well, drives everywhere she wants to drive and does her stuff, you know. But they both instilled in us very early that we can be whatever we want to be, so long as we're willing to work at it. My dad, I remember a couple of 10-year periods where he only missed one day out of work, and each time was to go to a funeral. You know, that was a work ethic. And he did not have a job like mine where you sit behind a desk and you get to wear nice suits and that sort of thing. He was always a mechanic. That's what he did as for a living. And you know, there was also this humility that they always instilled in us about nobody's better than you, but you absolutely never look down on anyone. And so, so when you do that and you're bold about things, and as I mentioned, jumping into a whole host of different leadership opportunities, each time you learn something. And I've fallen, but I always call it falling forward. As long as I fall forward and learning something from it, I can just dust myself off and try again. And so, yeah, with that comes a lot of courage and the willingness to try some different things. And I think that's what holds back a lot of people, minorities and women more than anything else, is that we try to wait for the perfect opportunity. And we wait. We always say, I just need to get a bit more training. I need a few more years of experience. Or there may be somebody else who beats me out. And I always say, jump in, jump in, because even if you fail, you jump and you move a little bit further.
Right. And it's not really failing because you're learning a lesson, so I like that. So here's my question to you that I'd love to hear from you right now. What 2 books would you recommend? No, before we recommend, what 2 books are you reading right now?
Okay, so a good friend who I graduated from high school with, named Darren Lyons, wrote this really inspirational piece, and I'm not done with it yet, so I'm in the midst of it. Where he is a double amputee at this point. He got sick and is a double amputee, but he's now talking about how even with that, he's becoming that this might be the best period of his entire life because he's freer now and he's bolder now and so forth. So look that up, Darren Lyons as the first. And then I'm rereading The Audacity of Hope. And I go back and do this on occasion. That was a Barack Obama piece. And what I got from The Audacity was what we just talked about. Jumping in, trying, knowing that the odds might be against you and there'll be people out there thinking that he or she will fail at this, but jumping in anyway. And then learning life lessons from the journey itself. That's something I learned late in life, unfortunately, later in life. And it's been to enjoy the ride a whole lot more. And so I'm really embracing that whole piece of enjoy, not just waiting for delayed gratification on things, but enjoy the ride itself. And that's a piece I'm trying to teach to others as I go through that journey on my own.
And that's great that you said that because I'm always talking about self-care. So often when we get up to that ladder, we forget about self-care. And because of the virus that we had, because I don't want to be flagged by YouTube, because of the virus that we've had, that we're still going through, a lot of people, mental health has really gone through the roof. And of course, we know domestic violence. So my question to you is, and I love asking men this, what do you do for self-care?
Well, the mental health aspect of what's happened in our society over the last couple of years is nothing less than tragic. The guy who replaced me at MARTA, Jeff Parker, who I've known since 2005, 2006, when he applied for a job with me, when I was CEO of the system in Charlotte. He applied for a position and he was runner-up, but he and I became close then, and I've known him, ever since. Of course, he took his life back in January, and no one knows exactly why, but people can carry a look in a disposition that nobody recognizes the pain that they're in, that they're the only ones who really know. And I had just literally been with Jeff 10 days before he killed, before he committed suicide. We went to lunch. We went to lunch several times a year. And we just catch up on what was going on. So I spend a lot of time now, and in fact, on almost every address that I have with my team, whether it's a small group or a larger group, I mentioned the mental health pieces of taking care of yourself. Take a moment, because I sent out a celebratory message about what a great year we are ending in at Goodwill, but then mention when people are celebrating, that's when folks who are hurting feel even worse, because when they see everybody else happy and jubilant, it's the summer, everybody's talking about the big vacations they're going on, and kids are graduating and all that stuff. It actually makes it even more painful for those who are going through something tougher. So I always remind our team, be on the lookout for each other. If someone's exhibiting a little bit of isolation and whatnot, jump in, talk to them, and so forth. For me, my magic is family and exercise. So I've got a son who is into every sport. As I mentioned, he's playing baseball when we were talking a little bit earlier before the broadcast began. He's in playing baseball. He was in football, basketball, swimming, you name it. So, and he's 9 years old. So he's got me running. And I have two daughters who are in college. One's in grad school at the University of Pittsburgh. The other is at Spelman. She's going to be starting Spelman in the fall. So that those girls and the boy who keep me running, and then my wife and I, we're like lately exercising a lot together. Before she did hers, I did mine, but now lately we're doing a lot more together. But I have an early morning, late at night, middle of the day, whatever it takes. So fitness is my thing. So I am, you're not going to find too many more dudes who are their college size, like me at my age. But yeah, I get in there and I vigorously work out. I mean, I hit the weights, I run, do the Peloton, all of it. But that is my de-stressor. So I can let all the day go out with all the sweat and so forth. But those are my things. It's family and exercise.
Okay, so here we come to some of the questions. And the number one question that I've been getting, when I told everyone you're going to be on here, unsolicited and solicited, was the rising prices for the clothes and the items in Goodwill. So can you please address that?
Yes, so we have had only one significant price increase in the whole time I've been there for the 4.5 years. The thing, where we made an across-the-board change on the price of, let's say, jeans or the price of electronics or what have you. What we did do was we were one of the last ones to do it. There's 158 different Goodwill organizations around the country. We all have territories, if you will. We're one of the last ones to become an e-commerce site. But now we are, and that has proven to be great because people from all over the country can buy things from right here in North Georgia, just like people in Portland. I'm sorry, just like our customers here could buy things from the Goodwill in Portland or the Goodwill in Wisconsin or what have you. But we've kept our prices, I think, relatively flat over these few years. We did have a increase. I think the average was around 3% or so more recently. But when you look at us compared to everybody else, I think we're doing well. And what we've been able to do with that price increase, very importantly, we've given raises to our employees. And we have done even more on the workforce development side of things, where we are even doing more job training, more work with resume reviews and interview prep and all those things, so people can just walk right off the street free of charge and get those services. So all the money is going back into making sure that particularly our frontline employees are being taken care of.
Keith, what would you tell your 19-year-old self?
What I talked about a little bit earlier, enjoy the journey a little bit more. I worked my butt off as, once I got, really it was like out of college, finished up my master's degrees. Once I did that, I was just like on a mission to be the youngest CEO ever. My thing was I'm going to be a CEO, I'm going to run a major transit system. And so, and I don't want to wait. I want to jump in as fast as I can. So literally my vacations were spent taking more courses or learning more, or getting more training and what have you. So I went from minimum wage intern at Greater Richmond Transit Company at 24 years old to deputy CEO by the time I was 26. And then became a CEO by the time I was 30. Again, became the youngest one, and then started moving up to bigger and bigger systems and so forth. Most of my vacations were spent with just doing work, And so I really was so consumed with being the best of everything that I really didn't enjoy things as much as I should have. And you talk about a tightly wound dude, that was me. You wanted to hire me because you knew if you hired me, the company's going to turn around and going to do great. But I didn't enjoy things nearly as much as I do now. And so I would tell that 19-year-old guy, enjoy the ride, dude. Enjoy. There's nothing wrong with being relaxed. I mean, my teams around me, I got in this habit of writing email. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd shoot out an email, 3 o'clock in the morning, not expecting anybody to respond. But then they started competing, and so they would respond, themselves. And so I'm now not only disrupting my life, but theirs as well. So learning to model the right behaviors and that sort of thing too, also is something I would tell that 19-year-old dude.
If they were going to do a screenplay on your life, what would you like it to be called? And who would you like to play you? It's going to make you think, huh? We do that here. We do that here.
Well, that's a very difficult question, because I feel like I'm only literally in the middle of my journey. Literally, I really think I have another 40, 45 years to go and a lot of great things to accomplish. But for the first half, a journey well traveled,
Okay.
I think might be the right title. And Justin Bieber, he can play me.
Okay. Okay. No, I mean, come on. I mean, this is it is what it is. What about song?
But what music do I like?
Yeah, for your life, yeah. To this point.
So I like everything from like old school R&B and pop music, and I love rap and so on. So
who's your favorite rapper?
So it's Pac. It's Tupac.
Who's the best rapper of all time?
I already said his name.
No. Okay. This is not what this interview is about, so we're not gonna go there. Not gonna go there.
And the reason why I like Pac though is that of all the hip hop artists, I think Pac understands women better than any other ones. That when he can do the hardcore gangster stuff, but then come back with Dear Mama, and keep your head up, which to me, keep your head up is a love letter to Black women. And when a brother can tell you the black of the berry, the sweet of the juice, when Black women, particularly darker skinned Black women, have been told their whole lives, change, look different, cover up. And there's a brother telling sisters, embrace the thing that they criticize about you the most. And when brothers try to put you down, hey, hold your head up. That brother is, that.
I'm gonna let you slide with that one. See, you got me until that, because I'm like, what about KRS-One? What about? I mean, I had dudes that you like.
But none of them write those love letters to Black women the way Pac does it, and that's what does it to me. Does it for me.
Okay, let me get out of my moment, because I'm having a moment right now. Because
okay.
It is what it is. So, listening, because what I want people to get from this conversation is you can be and do anything you want to do. You just have to have your tribe. How important is it to have your tribe or your bros or whomever it is to support you? How important is that? Men supporting.
Oh gosh, yeah. And that's another thing that I've had great blessings with. My mom and dad, I didn't mention, neither my mom or dad finished high school. Neither of them are formally educated, but they stress to us education nonstop every day. And so the fact that me and all my clan now, all of my children are super into the whole education field. My oldest daughter already has 1 degree. She'll have 3 by the time she's 24 years old. My younger daughter is kicking butt, and my son is already a scholar at 9 years old. He is leader of his math and science Olympiad teams, competing all over Georgia and so forth. And math and science, things that people told us weren't for us. But my network is strong. I got a couple of boys who went to high school with, and a couple of others who once I went to college with, and we're still like this, nonstop. I'm a Q, Omega Psi Phi, all 100%. and still very tight with the fraternity in every way. And then just a nice network of folks who, when I'm going through my challenges, and I have them, that I can pick up the phone or just say, hey man, let's just meet and grab a brew. I need to talk, and so I have that. And so it's an incredibly strong network, and I'm that support quite often when they need it. So I feel really, really blessed about that.
How are you balancing home and business?
This is something I did learn a long time ago, is that I'm always at work, and I'm okay with that. But my sort of litmus test on it is, if I'm at the amusement park with my family and it's Saturday afternoon, if you can call me, even if I'm with my family at an amusement park or at dinner or whatever, on vacation, wherever it might be, but if you can call me and in a 5-minute phone call, I can save you several hours of work, do it. Because there's going to be times in the middle of the day that I need to take a mental health break and just zone out and do what I need to do. Because in other words, I'll pay it back to the company at some point, and it's a reciprocal relationship. And I can very easily go from work mode to non-work mode instantaneously. And so because I've learned to do that, I don't get stressed out by work anymore. I know what I'm doing, know how to do it. So those are things that don't bug me nearly as much as they used to back in the day. But yeah, so I think I have great work-life balance because I can be mentally ready for work at any time, but can let it go as well when I need to.
And because this is called the Women Worthy Network, I want to personally give Mrs. Parker her props too and her flowers, because she's allowing you, and I'm using the word allowing you, to be Keith, to be the man, to go out there and to make a difference in the world, because you are making a difference in the world, where she is not stopping you. And I love when women do that. And also when husbands are allowing their wives to do the same thing. So I want to give Mrs. Parker her props for just being a wonderful wife, because if she wasn't, you wouldn't be where you are now. So I definitely got to give her props for that.
Absolutely.
So I want to, so just let her know that we thank her and we honor her for doing that. Because so often we talk to these successful men, and I never want a wife to feel left out of any of my interviews, because I have to give respect to her, because to your success, because you both are a unit. So speaking of marriage, what one advice would you give someone out there who's getting married, or if they've been married just a year and they're like still trying to figure it out? Like, what made yours work that you can tell other people?
The hardest part about marriage or any relationship is just simply all the different things that happen, and whether it's things that happen at work, things that happen with family members, things that happen with health, all those things get into it. And here's where it's the most challenging. It is the people who know you the best are going to be, in many respects, the most critical for you. And they can say the smallest thing, and it can ruin your day. Just ruin your day.
Honey, are you listening?
It can just ruin your day.
Yeah.
And not responding with, okay, she ruined my day, so I'm now going to push back and try to do the same thing. And instead try to embrace that moment and go, okay, let's take 10 seconds and step back. And instead of firing back, let's take that breath and try to figure out, okay, what's causing that grenade to be thrown? and how can I diffuse that versus trying to win the argument? Because there are a lot of lonely people who are very good arguers, because they win those arguments, run the person out the door quite frequently. So yeah, so that's what I think I see in the couples who tend to have the most lasting relationships, is that ability to argue and debate and do their stuff, but still not carry that grudge from one moment to the next. And that's what I see. And actually, that's everywhere. I mean, I see that all over. And I'll take a moment of privilege here to just say, I love what you're doing and love even the title of your program, because I know my success has been due to women. And as a result, I surround myself with powerful women.
Mhm.
Every organization my mom's calling me now, so I'll be talking to her after you and I finish up. But
And thank her too. Tell her I said thank her.
that's
Thank
the lady.
her.
She's the one. Well, she's my motivation. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I learned early on, and there's another book, by the way, that I'll recommend. Good grief, as I said, the title starts to escape me, but I'll think of it in a second.
Okay.
But it talks about making sure when you surround yourself as a leader, you include women of different types in your leadership circle, men of different personalities in your leadership circle, all of that, because each brings a different perspective and allows you to be more invulnerable as an organization and being able to challenge and being able to withstand any challenge. But every organization I've had a chance to lead, when you look at where we started versus by the time I left, you'll see powerful women who've ascended in their positions. So you'll see, well, maybe when I started, there was only 10% of the leadership team was women. By the time I left, it's always at least 50%, sometimes even more. I have a female police chief at Marta, female general counsel at Marta, female who ran the operations, which was unheard of to have a woman running a bus and rail operation while I was there. And since I've arrived here at Goodwill, similar type things, hired general counsel, Hispanic female, promoted a woman to run our career services group, and on and on and on and on. And so if you look at our leadership team at Goodwill right now, looks like America. That we've got Black and white and Hispanic and straight and gay, and we got truly a cornucopia of what Atlanta and North Georgia looks like, and that's what I think we should always aspire to be as an organization. We should reflect the people who we serve and the people who serve us.
Well, I know that's true because just to get to you, I'm like, does he have any men on staff? I mean, it was just all women. And I love that because I like to see that, so I see you were ahead of the game, prior to the Me Too movement and all of that, you were ahead of the game. So again, I want to give you your props for that. So what's going on the next half of your life? Because I believe there's 4 parts of everyone's life. Mm-hmm. This is your second half. So we're talking about your second half of your life. Well, second act.
I know it will be in service. I don't know exactly what that service will be. People ask me nonstop, am I going to run for this office or that office and so forth? I don't think that's what I want to do, but I love service. I am a volunteer on a number of different boards and different organizations right now, everything from the Atlanta Community Food Bank to the Firefighters Foundation. Still do a lot of work in education. Some still keep my toe in the water on the transportation front. And now lately, I had a chance to meet this wonderful young brother just a couple of days ago named Malcolm Little. And Malcolm was, in fact, still is the all-time leading receiver at University of Georgia. But what he found when he got there, he's a scholarship athlete and so forth, gets there and finds that he is way behind on reading. Way, way, way behind, to the point where he couldn't read a book that a friend had suggested that he read. And rather than let that be a stumbling block and something that he was embarrassed about and do nothing about, he said, I'm going to not only teach myself to read, but I'm now going to develop some literacy programs to help a whole host of folks. Believe it or not, in Atlanta, less than 10% of African-American kids are reading on grade level who come from impoverished neighborhoods. Less than 10%. So we got a lot of work to do. And so that may be that next place that I start really committing some time and resources to, is on this whole literacy front. Because there is no job that's responsible in this day and age where you can do it and not be a good reader. It is literally the foundation on everything. And because that means you don't communicate well, that means you don't do a whole host of things. And how many of us grew up watching kids act out because they didn't want to be the one who was next up reading, and they did all sorts of things to avoid to have to read in front of the rest of the class? I certainly remember it. I certainly remember kids who struggled in that regard, and those kids did not do well in life. except they did
And it's
not
usually
do.
young Black boys too that, when it comes to reading, because I was that girl where if the teacher didn't pick me, I was like freaking out. I'm the one that sat in the front row, because you know what they talk about, the ones that sit in the front row and the ones that sit in the back row, but that's why for me, it's critical for me to give back. It's so important for me to mentor young girls, mentor young boys. It's so important because I think we have to give back, especially when you were given a lot of things or you earn them, so to speak. But I think it's important because you want people to see that you're successful, you've succeeded, and you're still in that process. Because I don't ever want anyone to think that I'm at a certain level that I can't give back, because I think I owe it to my people to give back.
Oh,
I definitely
absolutely.
believe in servitude and volunteering, and I've been asked for office. I'm not sure about that, but this is what I love doing: mentoring, having shows, having conversations, because I think that's what we need now. We're Everything that we have, every issue that we're having, if we were to sit down and just have a conversation and get to understand each other's viewpoint, I think it would be a better world. That's just what I believe.
The two H's, I tell folks all the time, the two most undervalued attributes that one can have in my opinion, are the two H's, and that is being uh, is being able to hear, to truly hear someone when they're talking, and not listen to them so that you can then start talking, but listen to them to fully understand them. So really hearing. And then the second part is humility. How many times have we made horrible decisions because somebody hurt our feelings along the way, or said something in such a way that we felt like we had to get back in there and get our revenge? And because of that lack of humility, we make a lot of big mistakes. We buy things we can't afford. We go into places we shouldn't go. We cause damage to ourselves that we know we shouldn't do it, but because somebody else is doing it, not being humble enough to say, all right, you go do that. It's not for me. And particularly for our young Black brothers who make a lot of really bad choices because of that lack of humility, because they feel like I got to win that battle, and then the next battle, and then the next battle, next battle, and not be thinking about the overall outcomes of what those short-term decisions might be. And so this whole delayed gratification piece is something, again, that I try to talk about a great deal with our young brothers and sisters. But humility and the ability to hear, it can take us a much further. It takes us a long way, a long, long way.
Where do you see Goodwill in the next 4 years?
Oh, spectacular things,
Mm.
spectacular. What
Let me
I'm
get my pen and paper.
what I'm most proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 4.5 years since I took on the leadership role, is that in addition to becoming pretty renowned on the sales side, we're breaking records with the amount of sales and so forth. It's what we're doing on the workforce development component. We are now the #1 nonprofit in the country at helping African Americans find jobs. #1 in the country. We will have served, when I hit my anniversary date on October 17th of this year, we'll have served over 100,000 people in helping them find jobs. And when I started, we were only placing 16% of the people who came to work, who we helped find jobs for through our Goodwill Career Services. Only 16% were in jobs that were living wage and above. Today, that number is 78% and growing. So we remember when I said the reason why I took the job in the first place was because I wanted to do something that moved the needle of getting people out of poverty and onto better and more sustainable lives. We're doing it. We're literally doing that. There's a program we started with that, and you'll know this, gentleman, but there's a guy who popped by my office back when I first started at Goodwill, and I got to know him because we went on a trip together with a whole big group of people, and he's in a technology space, and said, Pete, we got to do something together. And Goodwill's doing a lot of good things. We're doing a lot of good things. And so in about 30 minutes, we came up with this program called the Technology Career Program. And that program gives free training where in about 4 months, you become proficient in about 4 different technology skills. And so we went in that 30 minutes, came up with the concept. 6 months later, we had our first graduates from that program, and now hundreds of students have graduated from it. And they've gone from working minimum wage type positions, which I think are great too, because minimum wage jobs are often the springboard to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But going from minimum wage jobs to making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. And in fact, this gentleman by the name of Andre Dickens, who is now our mayor, in his most successful commercial when he was running for mayor, he had a young lady named Lyric, and she was one of our first graduates from that program. And Lyric went from making, I think, $9 an hour, and I'm gonna tell her business a little bit, to over $60,000 a year in about 4 months.
Wow!
Going through that program with no debt, none of those things, and that's how successful. And that's what I want to expand and do more of, is creating not just a job, but we call the ABC program, a job, better job, career, and getting more and more people because quite often some of our folks are not that skilled enough that I can put them in a $40,000 job right away, that they need to learn more of the basics and so forth, so that it may even be a minimum wage position, but then 3 months later, 6 months later, they're ready to take on more and more importantly, produce more. So that employer gladly says, and you're knocking out the box. Let me now promote you, or let me now give you a raise because you've earned it. So that's what we're going to do more of. Expand our workforce development. We're going to be expanding more stores. We're going to be doing more newer things in the stores themselves. We're going to really hype up the customer service so that we'll be able to help people shop more effectively in what we're doing today. So better, cleaner, more. So you'll be seeing a great deal.
Great, so I can buy more stuff. Oh my goodness, yes. What am I going to do? You've been dropping so many jewels tonight, okay? I'm trying to keep up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to rewatch this. I'm going to have to write this down. What I want you to know is, my brother, and I love seeing anyone succeed. It doesn't matter what color. But when I'm talking to my brothers or my sisters, it just warms my heart to see where we've come to where we are right now. And I want you to know I respect you. I appreciate everything that you're doing and that you're going to do, and the improvements. Because I remember when I used to go to Goodwill, and I'm like, I ain't going to Goodwill. And now it's like, yep, come on, Thrifties. We're going to Goodwill. We're going, we're going to cover 5 Goodwills in one day, things like that. So I want people to, just go into Goodwill and just, even if you're looking for a job as well, because I hear what you're doing. Because like coming from New York, Goodwill was like not the store you would ever shop. Okay. Mm-hmm. You would never be caught the opposite of dead. I mean, the opposite of alive in there. Because I'm all about manifestations, and words have power. So you would never be caught in Goodwill. Now it's like, what are those big department stores? I don't even go to them anymore. I don't even know. I can't remember the last time I set foot, but I know, especially where I live, we have such great, merchandise in them. Why do I feel like I'm doing a doggone commercial? You didn't cut me a check.
Keep going. I love it.
You didn't cut me a check, my brother, and I'm here doing a commercial about Goodwill. But and the people that I've met have been pleasant. So I know it's so bad that I know which Goodwill to go to for shoes, purses, hats, pants, furniture. This is bad. Okay.
Well, I love it. I'll mention a quick story with you. One of my board members on that MARTA, and this guy done extremely well. Multimillionaire, business owner, so forth. But he and his wife are avid Goodwill people. And she actually is a reseller, buys a lot of our stuff and sells it to others. So again, as I mentioned, multimillionaire many times over. Guess what she says to me when my first conversation with her after she learns I'm going to be the new CEO of Goodwill? Why have you raised the prices too much? You need to do something about the prices at Goodwill.
See?
Same thing that you did to me.
See? I'm like, yo, what's up? Because we get, I don't want to say spoiled, but I know it's less expensive than going into a department store. I get that. But, you guys have spoiled us. So now when you raise the prices, we've done lost our mind. I'm telling you, for $2, or if I see a cent behind it, I'm like, wait a minute, this used to be, oh no. And I'm like, Jackie, come on. If you were to go to the department store, you'd pay double, triple that. So getting my vacuum cleaners, my furniture, my desk that my laptop's on, yeah. So if y'all are in Atlanta and you need to know which Goodwill to go to for whatever, hit a sister up. No, y'all need to find out for yourselves. But I want to take the time again to thank you and your team. Tia, your whole entire team has been amazing and phenomenal, because I would be remiss in not thanking your team for organizing this, orchestrating this. And you've been Johnny on point, you've been right on point, you've been so you've been such a nurturer, because I'm telling you, I've been watching you behind the scenes. So when you feel like somebody's watching you and you're about to call a popo, don't call a popo. That's me. That's me stalking you when you're at events and you're speaking. And you have been really a godsend for Goodwill. So you both, it's a great marriage. It's another marriage. And I think you've done a great job. Your team, as I said, the people around you, when you go into the stores, I'm seeing the change of the attitude change. I'm seeing that, because I remember back in the day, and I see that now. So you're doing a good job. Continue to do a good job. My question to you, my final question, two questions. One, why do you think women should support each other?
Oh my goodness. Because, and unfortunately, it's something that is almost systemic. When I talk about, remember, I said I got the same group of friends who I started with all the way back in high school and in college. So these dudes have been with me for 30 years. I mean, these are my boys, and we've never had issues. Lots of women don't have those long relationships with each other, and end up, being somewhat at odds with one another. And society has taught that in some respects, even promoted it. So one of the things that we did at Goodwill, for example, we started training for women who had moved into leadership positions, because people just assume, well, if you're a woman and you move into a leadership position, you're going to look out for other women. Not necessarily. So we want to make sure that people have the proper training and have the sensitivity to know that different groups work differently. So we want to make sure people have all the training, all the different types of resources that are necessary to be successful. That's one element. The other element, and again, is that communication. It's just learning to put you folks in there, in learning to walk in another person's shoes to fully understand. And what I try to espouse nonstop is, don't fall into stereotypes and put people in positions where they can truly be successful. And so we'll keep doing that in a whole host of different ways. And I learned from been led by, managed, been managed by a whole host of different women. And what I find is that if we really want to do something really well, hire more women.
I hope the people in the back row heard that. Okay. What can we do as Women Are Worthy Network? What can we do to support your mission, what you're doing, the company? What can we do?
Well, keep doing what you're doing. Spread the word about Goodwill. Tell people about all the great things we're doing. We didn't even talk about the programs we have for people with disabilities. That we have, we take care of all the logistical pieces and the janitorial and custodial work for the CDC, for the Jimmy Carter Center, and a whole host of different places. And many of the people who work for us are people with disabilities. We didn't talk about the great programs we have for people coming out of the criminal justice system. That we have programs for women coming out, for men coming out, and the folks who come through our programs judgment-free. We are getting them employed in wonderful positions. The number one factor in a person not going back in the criminal justice system is getting them a good job.
Yeah.
And that's what Goodwill does. So a whole host of different programs, youth employment services, programs to help people who are in challenged high schools and that sort of thing. But spread the word about Goodwill. Continue to shop and continue to donate those lightly used goods. And we would really appreciate that.
So you about to get me in trouble. You were doing so fine. My husband's in the next office and he's gonna come running in here. Did he say you need to shop? Julie just said, my husband said I donate and go back and buy a lot. But she says it's not true. It's true because the more you donate, the more you end up buying and coming back out. So you're like, okay, what's going on here? So so again, we're here to support whatever you're doing because I love your team. I love the organization. I love the mission. The fact that you're giving back to the community. You're not just taking, you're giving back to the community. And a great father, husband, and again, you're just a wonderful guy, and we really appreciate you coming on the show because we know you have tons of things to do, and you didn't have to be here. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the show as well. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, because that's how we keep the show, the lights going and things like that. And you've just been a phenomenal guest, and we want to thank you again, Mr. Parker, for taking part and being part of the show tonight. So we want you to have a wonderful Wednesday, a terrific Thursday, a fabulous Friday, a soothing Saturday, and a soca Sunday. Okay, so make sure you have a great week. And again, if there's anything that we can do, Tia or whatever can reach out to me. If there's any things that you guys have out that we can push that out into our platform, because we do have a big platform. So just let us know in an email list and all that kind of stuff. Just let me know. We're here to support. We're here to help. Because when I hear what you're doing with the workforce and the disability and all of that, yes. So we're here to help you.
Fantastic. This has been wonderful. Oprah has nothing on you, Jacqueline.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful guest. And please make sure you take time. I know you do the self-care, but don't forget, because so often we forget to talk. We forget to talk to men or tell men about self-care. So I'm glad that you're doing it. But please, I know you're doing great work, but take time for family and take time for you, just you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
All right. Have a great night.